the LeetCode Grinder. This person wakes up at 5 a.m. to solve their daily LeetCode problem before their actual job of never using any of these algorithms. They can tell you the time complexity of 17 different sorting algorithms, but genuinely don't understand why their React app re-renders 47 times per second. The LeetCode Grinder has solved median of 2 sorted arrays in optimal time, but spent 3 days trying to figure out why their API returns undefined. They know dynamic programming, but not Docker. They can implement a red-black tree from scratch, but their idea of error handling is just putting console logs everywhere. Here's the thing, they're not wrong to grind LeetCode. The system made them this way. When every tech interview starts with reverse a linked list, what else are they supposed to do? The tragedy is that 59% of companies report these same developers struggle with actual work because, surprise, real software engineering isn't about implementing merge sort. It's about understanding why the previous developer used 3 different date libraries and being afraid to remove any of them. The fix: build one actual feature from spec to deploy, not a to-do app. Something with authentication, data persistence, and at least one edge case that makes you question your career choices. You'll learn more about software engineering in that one feature than in 300 LeetCode problems. The tutorial hell tourist. Ah, yes. The Eternal Learner. Their Udemy account has more courses than a university catalogue. They've started Complete Web Development Bootcamp 2024 7 times, each time convinced that this will be the course that finally makes everything click. The tutorial hell tourist has that very specific kind of knowledge where they recognize every concept but can't implement anything. Show them code and they'll nod knowingly. Ah, yes, destructuring assignment. Very nice. Ask them to write it themselves and suddenly they're Googling JavaScript how to get item from array. Their learning history is a graveyard of good intentions. 13% completion on Master React in 30 days. 7% on Advanced CSS animations. 43% on Python for everybody, because the instructor had a soothing voice that helped them sleep. They've watched so many roadmap videos they could probably draw the path to becoming a full-stack developer from memory, yet they've never actually walked down that path. The brutal truth. They're using tutorials as productivity theatre. Watching someone code feels like progress. It's not. It's like watching Gordon Ramsay cook and thinking you're getting better at making scrambled eggs. You're not. You're just getting better at watching Gordon Ramsay. Stop watching. Start building. Your code will be garbage. That's the point. Every error message teaches you more than 10 hours of someone else writing flawless code while you nod along. The Bootcamp Hustler. LinkedIn influencer energy radiates from this person. Their bio says, full-stack software engineer, former marketing manager, passionate about clean code. After 12 weeks of copying React tutorials, every day they post, day 73 of my coding journey. Today I learned about arrays with 17 hashtags. The Bootcamp Hustler knows how to sell themselves better than they know how to code. They can explain the Mirn stack to a recruiter, but freeze when asked what the event loop actually does. They've memorized every behavioral interview question, but think Git rebase is a type of cryptocurrency. They're not lying exactly. They're just operating on bootcamp time, where 3 months of tutorials makes you proficient, and building one CRUD app makes you experienced with production applications. They've got testimonials from their bootcamp on their portfolio site, which incidentally is the same template every other student used, just with different colors. Here's what's actually sad. Bootcamp grads have nearly identical employment rates at major tech companies as CS grads, 6.03% versus 6.60%. That $100,000 computer science degree, it's buying you a 0.57% advantage. The Bootcamp Hustler isn't wrong to skip the traditional route. They're wrong to think the bootcamp was enough. You want to stand out? Master one thing deeply instead of collecting certificates. Stop listing every technology you've ever npm installed. Nobody cares that you worked with MongoDB because you followed a tutorial. Show me one project where you actually had to optimize queries, handle migration, or recover from data loss. That's experience. The copy-paste engineer. This developer has never met a Stack Overflow answer. They didn't immediately paste into production. Their code is an archaeological dig site. Layers of solutions from different eras of JavaScript, none of which they understand. The copy-paste engineer's codebase contains 3 different implementations of the same function because they kept Googling the problem slightly differently. They've got jQuery mixed with React, callbacks mixed with promises mixed with async/await. And somewhere in there is a set timeout that nobody remembers why it needs to be exactly 1500 milliseconds, but everyone's afraid to change it. When something breaks, they don't debug. They Google the error message and paste in the next solution. This creates a cascade of fixes, fixing fixes, until the code looks like it was written by someone having an argument with themselves across time. They've got that special kind of confidence that comes from not knowing what you don't know. Yeah, I fixed the authentication bug, they say, having copy-pasted a solution that disables cores entirely. The site works now, sure, but it's also technically vulnerable to attacks from parallel dimensions. The tragic part? AI makes this worse. Now, they're not even copy-pasting human-verified solutions. They're copy-pasting hallucinations. GitHub Copilot suggests code that looks plausible, and they accept it faster than terms and conditions. Studies show developers spend 67% more time debugging AI-generated code, but our copy-paste engineer doesn't debug. They just paste more code on top. Here's your redemption arc. Take one piece of pasted code and rewrite it from scratch. No copying. Understand every line. Write a unit test for it. I guarantee you'll discover it does 3 things you didn't know about and fails in 5 ways you never considered. The framework hopper. Monday. React is dead. Svelte is the future. Wednesday. Actually, Solid.js has better performance. Friday. You know what? Vanilla JavaScript was fine all along. Next Monday. Have you heard about HTMX? The framework hopper has built the same to-do app in 12 different frameworks, but has never built anything else. Their GitHub is a graveyard of abandoned projects, each representing a 2-week obsession with whatever framework was trending on Twitter that month. They can tell you the philosophical differences between Vue's composition API and React hooks, but they can't tell you why their users' data disappeared. They know every framework's selling points, but none of their gotchas. They're like someone who collects guitars, but can only play Wonderwall. The framework hopper isn't entirely wrong. Staying current matters. But they've confused motion with progress. They're not learning 12 frameworks, they're learning the same 20% of 12 frameworks. The basics, the tutorial stuff. The part that's the same everywhere anyway. Real framework knowledge comes from pushing something to its limits, from finding the edges where the abstraction breaks down, from maintaining something long enough to hate your past self's decisions. You don't get that from another build a blog in X tutorial. Pick a stack, live with it for 90 days minimum, build something real, hit the weird edge cases, find the bugs in the framework itself. That's when you actually learn. Plus, employers don't want someone who knows every framework exists. They want someone who can ship features in the one they already use. The genius. This developer is simultaneously the best and worst person on the team. They'll rewrite the entire authentication system over a weekend because JWT is a solved problem, and their solution is somehow both brilliant and completely incomprehensible. The genius writes code like they're the only person who will ever read it, because in their mind they are. Variable names like x, temp2, and actually this one. Comments? That's what the code is for. Documentation? The code is the documentation. Their pull requests are either immediately approved because nobody wants to admit they don't understand, or they trigger 3-hour debates about whether humanity is ready for this level of abstraction. The genius writes code for an audience of one. Themselves, at the exact moment they're writing it. Not themselves in 6 months. Definitely not their teammates. Their code is perfect right until they leave the company, at which point it becomes everyone else's problem. It's like they're playing 4D chess while everyone else is trying to play checkers, except the chessboard is on fire, and they're the only one with the rules. The tragedy? They're often right about the technical stuff. Their solutions frequently are better. But software engineering isn't a solo sport. Your brilliant solution that nobody can maintain is worse than a decent solution everyone understands. The Standup Poet. So yesterday I was investigating the authentication bug. You know, the one where users sometimes get logged out. Well, it turns out it's related to how we handle session tokens, which got me thinking about our Redis implementation. An actually funny story. This is minute 3 of their quick update. They've taken 6 minutes to explain they changed one line of code. The entire team has mentally checked out, but they're still going, now explaining what JSON Web Tokens are to a room full of people who have been using them for years. The Standup Poet treats every daily stand-up like it's their TED Talk. They don't give updates, they give narratives, complete with backstory, character development, and usually a cliffhanger for tomorrow's episode. They'll say, I'm working on the user authentication every day for 3 weeks. When pressed for specifics, they'll launch into another epic about their debugging journey, how they learned about race conditions, and their philosophical thoughts on whether sessions or tokens better represent the human experience of identity. Meanwhile, their actual output is 20 lines of code, half of which are console logs they forgot to remove. Here's the thing, they're not trying to waste time. They genuinely think this context matters. They think everyone needs to understand their struggle to appreciate their solution. They're performing productivity instead of being productive. The fix is brutal but simple. Share a screenshot or a pull request link. State one concrete next step. That's it. If people want the director's commentary, they'll ask. The pattern Parrot. This developer just discovered design patterns, and by God, they're going to use all of them. Their simple CRUD app has more layers than a wedding cake. They've got repositories, wrapping services, wrapping adapters, wrapping facades, all to save user preferences to local storage. The pattern Parrot implements the factory pattern to create objects that have two properties. They use dependency injection for a settings page with 3 checkboxes. They've got an abstract base class for every component, even the ones that will never have siblings. Ask them why, and they'll say enterprise standards, or scalability, or separation of concerns. Their app has 3 users. Their mom, their girlfriend, and a bot that somehow found the URL. But it's built to scale to millions, assuming those millions are willing to wait 30 seconds for the initial JavaScript bundle to load. They've turned a 50-line script into a 5,000-line application because someone told them good code is maintainable code, and they interpreted that as incomprehensible code that follows patterns I memorized from a Medium article. The pattern Parrot doesn't understand that patterns are solutions to problems, not prescriptions for all code. They're implementing solutions to problems they don't have, creating complexity to solve simplicity. It's like wearing a hazmat suit to make a sandwich. Technically safer, practically insane. Here's the secret. Good code is code that solves the problem with the minimum necessary complexity. Your startup's MVP doesn't need the same architecture as Netflix. Write simple code until simple code causes problems. Then, and only then, add complexity. And document why you added it, because future you will forget, and current you is probably wrong anyway.